Welcome to the Book Reading and Summaries channel.
The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald. Introduction, the narrator, the setting, and the subject. F. Scott Fitzgerald's The Great Gatsby is a masterful and tragic novel set in the summer of 1922, during the height of the Jazz Age, a post-World War I era defined by extravagant wealth, moral decay, and reckless abandon. The story is a complex critique of the American dream, the hollowness of the upper class, and the destructive power of nostalgia. The novel is narrated by Nick Carraway, a young man from a respectable Midwestern family who comes to New York to learn the bond business. He is the perfect narrator, simultaneously an insider and an outsider. He is, as he states in the opening pages, inclined to reserve all judgments. This quality makes him a confidant for the novel's major characters, yet he ends the story by passing a profound moral judgment on them all. The novel's geography is its primary social symbol. Nick lives in West Egg, a newly fashionable, less prestigious enclave on Long Island, home to the new money, the nouveau riche. His neighbor is the enigmatic Jay Gatsby, who lives in a colossal, ostentatious mansion and throws legendary parties every weekend. Across the bay lies East Egg, the home of the old money aristocracy, including Nick's cousin, Daisy Buchanan, and her immensely wealthy, British husband, Tom Buchanan. The conflict of the novel is deceptively simple. It is the story of Jay Gatsby, a man who has manufactured an empire of wealth for the sole purpose of winning back the woman he loved and lost, Daisy, who is now the embodiment of the very old money world that would never accept him. Chapter 1: The Hollow World of East Egg. The narrative begins with Nick Carraway establishing his moral framework and his connection to the story. He explains that his father taught him not to criticize others, as not everyone has had the advantages he has. He says this reservation has made him a confidant, but that it has its limits. He confesses that his time in the East left him with a reaction of unqualified scorn. The one exception is Gatsby himself. Nick sees Gatsby as representing everything for which I have an unaffected scorn, yet he also recognizes in Gatsby a romantic readiness and a heightened sensitivity to the promises of life that he has never seen in anyone else. Nick travels to East Egg to have dinner with the Buchanans. Their house is a cheerful red and white Georgian colonial mansion, and the scene inside is one of vast, restless, and empty wealth. Nick reintroduces us to Tom Buchanan, a former football star from Yale, now a sturdy straw-haired man of 30 with a rather hard mouth and a supercilious manner. He is physically powerful and arrogant, his body a cruel body. We then meet Daisy Buchanan, Nick's second cousin, and her friend, Jordan Baker, a competitive golfer. Daisy and Jordan are draped on a sofa, their white dresses rippling and fluttering as if they had just been blown back in after a short flight around the house. Daisy's voice is her most captivating feature, a low, thrilling voice that Nick notes is full of money. The dinner conversation reveals the deep-seated rot beneath the polished surface. Tom espouses racist, pseudo-intellectual theories from a book called The Rise of the Colored Empires, revealing his intellectual insecurity and bigotry. The dinner is interrupted when the phone rings. It is Myrtle Wilson, Tom's mistress, calling from New York. Jordan reveals this secret to Nick, though it is clear everyone, including Daisy, knows about the affair. Daisy's response is not outrage, but a performance of cynical, world-weary sophistication, telling Nick she has become pretty cynical about everything. She confides in him that the best thing a girl can be in this world is a beautiful little fool. This chapter establishes the moral vacuum of the old money elite. They are bored, racist, unfaithful, and profoundly unhappy, coasting on an inheritance of wealth and status they did nothing to earn. The chapter ends with Nick returning to West Egg. He sees a figure standing on the lawn of the neighboring mansion, Gatsby. Nick is about to call out, but Gatsby seems to be trembling and is content to be alone. Nick sees him stretch his arms out toward the dark water. Nick looks to see what Gatsby is reaching for and sees only a single green light, minute and far away, that might have been the end of a dock. This green light becomes the novel's central, guiding symbol, an unattainable dream, the future, and Gatsby's obsessive desire for Daisy. Chapter 2: The Valley of Ashes. If Chapter 1 showed the glittering surface of wealth, Chapter 2 reveals the desolate wasteland it is built upon. Fitzgerald introduces the Valley of Ashes, a fantastic farm of industrial waste located between West Egg and New York City. It is a place of ash-gray men where everything is blanched, dead, and covered in soot, a symbol of the moral and social decay hidden beneath the glamour of the eggs and the forgotten plight of the working class. Looming over this wasteland are the eyes of Dr. T. J. Eckelberg, a massive, fading billboard of an oculist featuring two blue and gigantic eyes that brood on over the solemn dumping ground. These disembodied eyes are a key symbol, representing a passive, commercial, and ultimately absent God who watches over the moral decay of the modern world but does nothing to intervene. Tom forces Nick to accompany him to this valley. They stop at a garage owned by George B. Wilson, a blonde, spiritless man, anemic, and faintly handsome. He is a ghost of a man, unaware that his own wife, Myrtle Wilson, is Tom's mistress. Myrtle is George's opposite. She is full of a coarse, vital energy, a woman desperate to escape her bleak existence. Tom, Myrtle, and Nick take the train to New York, to a small apartment Tom keeps for the affair. The party they have there is a grotesque, vulgar parody of the sophisticated gathering at the Buchanans'. Myrtle's sister, Catherine, and some other neighbors arrive. They drink heavily, and Myrtle, transformed by a new dress and the trappings of wealth, becomes loud and arrogant, putting on aristocratic airs. The party disintegrates into chaos and drunken gossip about Gatsby. The night culminates in a moment of shocking brutality. Myrtle, drunk on her newfound status, begins to taunt Tom by shouting Daisy's name. Tom, enraged, tells her to stop. When she repeats it, he strikes her with his open hand, breaking her nose. The party ends with Nick, drunk and disoriented, leaving a scene of sordid, violent, and pathetic misery. This chapter solidifies the theme of moral emptiness and the carelessness of the rich, who use and discard the lower classes for their amusement. Chapter 3: The Spectacle of Jay Gatsby. This chapter introduces the reader to the legend of Gatsby through his famous parties. These parties are not intimate gatherings but massive, bacchanalian spectacles, open to hundreds of uninvited guests. Nick describes the scene with a mixture of wonder and detachment, a corps of caterers, an orchestra, enough colored lights to make a Christmas tree of Gatsby's enormous garden. The guests are like moths, drawn to the light and splendor, and they spend the night spreading wild, contradictory rumors about their host. He killed a man. He was a German spy during the war. Nick is unique because he was actually invited. He wanders through the crowd, feeling alone, until he finds Jordan Baker. They explore the house and, in the high Gothic library, they encounter a stout, middle-aged man with enormous owl-eyed spectacles, whom Nick later calls Owl Eyes. Owl Eyes is drunken, marveling at the books. He shows them that the books are real, not cardboard fakes, but that the pages are uncut. This is a perfect metaphor for Gatsby himself. The illusion of depth and tradition is backed by real substance, but it is all for show. It has never been truly used or inhabited. Finally, Nick meets Gatsby. The introduction is anticlimactic. Nick is talking to a man about his own age who has a familiar, reassuring smile. The man recognizes Nick from the war and says, "I'm Gatsby." Gatsby's smile is described as one of those rare smiles with a quality of eternal reassurance in it. It understood you just so far as you wanted to be understood, believed in you as you would like to believe in yourself. But the smile vanishes, and Nick is left with the impression of an elegant young roughneck who picks his words with care, using the absurd, upper-class affectation old sport. Throughout the party, Gatsby is conspicuously separate from his own celebration. He watches, he orchestrates, but he does not drink or participate. He is a man of singular purpose, and the party is merely a means to an end. The chapter ends with Nick observing the chaos of the party's conclusion, drunken arguments, a car crash, and his own growing relationship with Jordan Baker, whom he recognizes as incurably dishonest. He concludes the chapter by reestablishing his own moral high ground. "I am one of the few honest people that I have ever known." Chapter 4: The Past and the Plan. This chapter is dedicated to building, and then deconstructing, the myth of Gatsby. First, Nick lists the names of the people who attended Gatsby's parties that summer, a veritable who's who of the 1920s, blending high society with the criminal underworld. Gatsby then takes Nick to lunch in his famous car, a rich cream color, bright with nickel, a symbol of his ostentatious, new money vulgarity. During the drive, Gatsby, sensing Nick's skepticism, tells him his backstory. It is a laughably false and romanticized tale. He claims to be the son of wealthy, dead parents from the Midwest, San Francisco, educated at Oxford, which he pronounces awkwardly, and a decorated war hero. To prove this, he shows Nick a medal from Montenegro and a photo of himself at Oxford. Gatsby's need to prove his identity with props only highlights its inauthenticity. Gatsby's power is demonstrated when he is pulled over for speeding and simply flashes the police commissioner a white card, and the officer apologizes. This reveals the depth of his influence, which is clearly rooted in something more than just parties. At lunch, Nick is introduced to Meyer Wolfsheim, Gatsby's business partner. Wolfsheim is a Jewish gambler, a shadowy figure who, Gatsby notes, fixed the 1919 World Series. Wolfsheim's cufflinks, made of the finest specimens of human molars, are a grotesque symbol of the dark, criminal, and predatory world that finances Gatsby's beautiful dream. The chapter's climax comes later, when Jordan Baker explains everything. In a long flashback, she tells Nick of her girlhood in Louisville in 1917. She knew Daisy Faye, the most popular girl in town. Daisy was dating a young, unknown officer, Jay Gatsby. They were madly in love. But Gatsby was poor and had to go to war. After he left, Daisy's family pressured her, and she eventually married Tom Buchanan, a man of enormous wealth. Jordan recounts seeing Daisy on her wedding day, drunk, clutching a letter from Gatsby, weeping and telling Jordan to tell him all Daisy's changed her mind. But the next day, she married Tom Buchanan without so much as a whimper. Jordan reveals the truth. Gatsby bought his mansion specifically because it was across the bay from Daisy's. The parties were not for the guests, they were a net, thrown out in the hope that one night, Daisy might wander in. The green light is the light at the end of her dock. The plan is set. Gatsby wants Nick to invite Daisy to his cottage for tea, so Gatsby can casually drop by, as if by accident. Chapter 5, The Reunion. This chapter is the novel's structural and emotional centerpiece, the reunion of Gatsby and Daisy. Gatsby, for all his power, is terrified. He offers Nick a side hustle, a clear nod to his bootlegging business, which Nick, preserving his honesty, refuses. Gatsby then has Nick's lawn cut and has a greenhouse of flowers delivered to Nick's small cottage. The day of the tea is gray and rainy. Gatsby is pale, nervous, and distraught. When Daisy arrives, her voice a wild tonic in the rain, Gatsby is so panicked he nearly flees, then clumsily re-enters the house, pretending he has just arrived. The initial reunion is painfully formal and embarrassing. Nick, feeling the immense awkwardness, leaves them alone. When he returns, the atmosphere is transformed. The rain has stopped, and the sun is out. Daisy is crying smiles, and Gatsby is literally glowing, a new well-being radiating from him. The awkward, nervous Gats has been replaced by the confident Gatsby. Gatsby then insists they go to his house. The tour of the mansion is not a friendly visit, it is a display, a performance of his material success. He shows Daisy everything he has acquired for her. The tour reaches its climax in his bedroom, where he begins to throw his expensive, imported shirts from his closet, shirts of sheer linen and thick silk and fine flannel. At this, Daisy breaks down. She buries her head in the shirts and begins to cry. It makes me sad because I've never seen such beautiful shirts before. This is the novel's most poignant and pathetic moment. Daisy is not crying over shirts, she is crying for the realization of the comfortable, wealthy, and, she imagines, romantic life she could have had with Gatsby. She is mourning the mistake she made in choosing Tom's old money cruelty over Gatsby's new money devotion. Gatsby points out the green light to Daisy, noting that its colossal significance is now gone. Now that he has her, the symbol of his desire is just a light on a dock. The dream, once it is touched, begins to die. Chapter 6, The Man and the Dream. Fitzgerald finally reveals the truth of Gatsby's past. A reporter comes to the house, chasing the rumors. Nick, at this point, steps in to tell us the unadorned facts. Jay Gatsby was born James Gatz to poor, unsuccessful farm parents in North Dakota. At 17, he ran away, driven by a platonic conception of himself, a romantic, idealized vision of the man he wanted to be. He was Jay Gatsby. He worked odd jobs until he met Dan Cody, a 50-year-old mining tycoon, on his yacht on Lake Superior. Cody was a hard-drinking, self-made man. Gatz warned him of an impending storm, and Cody, impressed, took him on as his personal assistant. For 5 years, Gatz sailed with Cody, learning the manners of the rich, the ruthlessness of business, and, crucially, the dangers of alcohol, which is why Gatsby drinks so little. Cody intended to leave Gatsby $25,000, but when he died, Cody's mistress, Ella Kay, used legal trickery to steal the inheritance. Gatz was left with nothing but his singularly appropriate education. This experience cemented his ambition and taught him that to win the old money world, symbolized by Daisy, he would need to build an empire of new money himself. The narrative returns to the present. The parties at Gatsby's begin to change, they feel oppressive. Tom and Daisy finally attend one. The party is a disaster. Tom is openly rude and suspicious, announcing his intention to find out what Gatsby does. Daisy is appalled by the raw energy and vulgarity of the West Egg crowd. She finds the party offensive. This is a devastating blow to Gatsby. He had built this entire world for her, and she hates it. It is the unbridgeable gap between old money, which finds the display tacky, and new money, which believes the display is impressive. After the party, Gatsby has a desperate conversation with Nick. He is distraught that Daisy didn't like it. He laments that she is slipping away. He says he wants to repeat the past, to go back to Louisville and marry her from her parents' house, as if the last 5 years never happened. Nick, in a moment of clarity, tells him, "You can't repeat the past." Gatsby's response is the key to his entire character. Can't repeat the past? Why, of course you can. Asterisk asterisk, this is his romantic idealism, his tragic flaw. He genuinely believes that his money can erase time and buy back the love he lost. Chapter 7, The Great Confrontation and the Great Smash-Up. This chapter is the novel's climax. The action takes place on the hottest, most oppressive day of the summer, the heat symbolizing the unbearable, explosive tension. Nick, Jordan, and Gatsby are invited to lunch at the Buchanans'. The tension is palpable. Gatsby can barely contain his obsession, staring at Daisy. Tom, watching them, sees the unmistakable look in Gatsby's eyes. He sees that Daisy is in love with Gatsby. The confrontation is set. Daisy, nervously, suggests they all go to town. The group splits. Tom drives Gatsby's ostentatious yellow car, taking Nick and Jordan. Gatsby drives Tom's respectable blue coupe, taking Daisy. The car swap is a fatal error. Tom, in Gatsby's car, stops at Wilson's garage in the Valley of Ashes. Wilson is visibly ill. He tells Tom he has discovered his wife, Myrtle, is having an affair, though he doesn't know with whom, and that he is taking her west to escape. This news devastates Tom. He is losing both his wife and his mistress in one day. The group meets at a suite in the Plaza Hotel. The scene is a pressure cooker. Tom, driven by panic and his innate snobbery, begins to attack Gatsby. He mocks Gatsby's Oxford claim. Gatsby, finally, reveals the truth: Daisy's leaving you. Tom, in a calculated move, turns the attack on Gatsby's identity. I found out what your drugstores were. He and this Wolfsheim sold grain alcohol over the counter. He exposes Gatsby as a common bootlegger, a criminal. This is the turning point. Daisy, who was drawn to Gatsby's romantic display of wealth, is repulsed by the criminal source of that wealth. Gatsby, desperate, makes his one, impossible demand of Daisy: tell him you never loved him. Daisy, cornered, cannot do it. She breaks down. Oh, you want too much. I love you now, isn't that enough? I can't help what's past. I did love him once, but I loved you too. This admission, I loved you too, is the single bullet that kills Gatsby's dream. His entire fantasy was built on the premise that their 5 years apart were a mistake and that she had only ever loved him. Her admission shatters that illusion. Tom, seeing his victory, sends them home. Go on. He won't bother you again. Daisy and Gatsby drive back in the yellow car, their dream in ruins. The novel cuts back to the Valley of Ashes. Myrtle, having fought with Wilson, sees the yellow car, which she saw Tom driving earlier, and runs into the road, thinking he will save her. But Daisy is driving. In her hysteria, she hits Myrtle, killing her instantly, and does not stop. Tom, Nick, and Jordan arrive at the accident scene. Tom is horrified. But his grief quickly turns to self-preservation. He finds Wilson, who is catatonic with grief, and carefully plants the seed. The yellow car that hit Myrtle was not his. He ensures Wilson knows it belongs to Gatsby. Nick returns to East Egg, disgusted. He finds Gatsby hiding in the bushes, watching over nothing. Gatsby reveals that Daisy was driving, but that he of course will say he was. He is still protecting her, pathetically clinging to the dead dream, believing she just needs time. Nick looks up at the window, where Tom and Daisy are conspiring together over cold fried chicken, their intimacy restored. They have already moved on, united by their mutual guilt and their old money instinct for survival. Chapter 8, The Dream is Dead. The novel shifts into a dark, tragic tone. Nick stays with Gatsby until dawn. Gatsby, as if in a confessional, tells Nick the real story of his 1917 romance. He had taken Daisy under false pretenses, letting her believe he was of her class. He fell in love not just with her, but with her world, the wealth, the rich house, the untouchable status. She was his holy grail. After the war, he was sent to Oxford by mistake, and by the time he returned, she was married. Nick leaves for work, but not before paying Gatsby his only compliment, breaking his code of reserved judgment. They're a rotten crowd. You're worth the whole damn bunch put together. Gatsby decides to use his swimming pool for the first time all summer, a final attempt to hold onto the season and his dream. The narrative shifts to George Wilson. His descent into madness is parallel to Gatsby's disillusionment. Cradling his wife's body, Wilson finds a small, expensive dog leash Tom had bought for Myrtle. He realizes this is the clue to her lover. His grief-stricken mind, looking at the eyes of Dr. T. J. Eckelberg, connects the eyes to God. God knows what you've been doing. You may fool me, but you can't fool God. Wilson, now believing the billboard is the eyes of an avenging God, sets out to find the owner of the yellow car. He finds his way to Gatsby's mansion. He shoots Gatsby as he floats on a mattress in the pool, a grotesque, unheroic baptism in death, and then shoots himself. The dream is over. Chapter 9, The Careless People. The final chapter is a coda of profound sadness and moral disgust. Nick is left to clean up the mess. The aftermath of the murder-suicide is a media circus, full of grotesque rumors about Gatsby. Nick, in a final act of loyalty, tries to find people to attend Gatsby's funeral. His attempts reveal the total emptiness of Gatsby's world. Meyer Wolfsheim, the man who made Gatsby, refuses to get mixed up in it. Daisy and Tom have already left town, leaving no address. They have retreated back into their vast carelessness or their money, or whatever it was that kept them together, and let other people clean up the mess they had made. This is Fitzgerald's final, damning verdict on the aristocracy. The only people who show up for Gatsby are Nick, a few servants, and Owl Eyes from the library, who mutters the pathetic, fitting epitaph, "The poor son of a bitch." The most touching mourner is Henry C. Gatz, Gatsby's estranged father, a simple, proud old man from the Midwest. He shows Nick Gatsby's boyhood copy of Hopalong Cassidy. Inside the back cover is a schedule, written by the young James Gatz, a rigid plan for self-improvement, exercise, study, practice elocution. This small schedule reveals the origin of Gatsby's dream. It began not as a corrupt desire for wealth, but as a pure, quintessentially American, Ben Franklin-esque drive for self-betterment. His dream was only corrupted when it became confused with Daisy and the material world she represented. Disgusted with the East and its moral void, Nick decides to return to the Midwest. He has one final, chilling encounter with Tom Buchanan, who admits he was the one who told Wilson that the yellow car was Gatsby's. Tom feels entirely justified, believing Gatsby had it coming. Tom and Daisy are careless people, children who smash things and then retreat, leaving others to pay the price. Conclusion: so we beat on. The novel ends with Nick alone, reflecting on the story one last time before he leaves. He erases an obscene word from Gatsby's steps, a final act of protecting his friend's memory. He looks at Gatsby's empty mansion and thinks about the American dream. He connects Gatsby's specific dream for Daisy to the original dream of the Dutch sailors who first saw the fresh, green breast of the New World, a new continent that matched man's capacity for wonder. He concludes that this dream of a limitless future is already in the past. Gatsby believed in the green light, the orgastic future that year by year recedes before us. His dream was already behind him, lost in the vast obscurity of the past. The novel closes with one of the most famous final lines in all of literature, a beautiful and tragic summary of the human condition. Gatsby believed in the green light, the orgastic future that year by year recedes before us. It eluded us then, but that's no matter. Tomorrow we will run faster, stretch out our arms farther. And one fine morning, asterisk asterisk. So we beat on, boats against the current, borne back ceaselessly into the past. We are all, Fitzgerald argues, like Gatsby, striving for a future that is defined by a past we can never recapture, rowing forward while the current of time itself pushes us back.
Subscribe to the channel to motivate us to create more useful videos.